Hello, everyone, and welcome to another ASUG Partner Webcast. My name is Maureen McInerney, Partner Marketing Specialist here at ASUG, and I will be your moderator for this event. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today for this presentation. Today's webcast is being recorded. The link to the recording and the accompanying slides will be posted to the ASUG website calendar of events, and all registrants will receive a follow-up email with the link to those materials once the webcast has concluded. I'd like to remind our audience members that you can submit your questions at any time by clicking the purple Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Today's webcast is Minimize Business Disruption During SAP S4 Migration, the Brownfield Approach, sponsored by GyanSys. Our speakers today are John Hoover, VP of USA Delivery from GyanSys, Ashish Baral, SAP Implementation Experience from GyanSys, and Praveen Kumar, SAP Architect and Global Practice Manager from GyanSys. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to John to get us started today.
Thank you very much, Maureen. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. So for today, we're going to go through a brownfield approach. We sent out the abstract where we're going to talk about different options with the brownfield approach. There's nothing to be scared of, and you'll hear me say this again with S4. There's really no reason not to start your upgrade, not to start your brownfield migration. There's several options and tools that can assist you on your journey along when you do that. And that's what we're going to review today. As we go through our agenda, we'll go through a quick GyanSys overview, who we are, kind of a little bit more background on top level from an S4 brownfield migration, what are the different options. We're going to go through the assessment for brownfield implementations, kind of how we handle that assessment, because you really need to know your roadmap to where you're going before you can choose the appropriate tools and the appropriate project really to migrate from your current version of ECC, or in some cases older versions, pre-ECC of SAP that we've encountered with our clients. We'll go through the migration with minimal disruption, specifically on some of the data migration elements, some other elements we'll talk about with change management, and some of the tools and accelerators. And of course, we'll leave plenty of time for Q&A. We do have a panel here that's ready to answer those questions in depth. And thank you again to Maureen and ASUG for allowing us to do this webinar today. So again, I'm John Hoover, VP of Delivery and Solution Architecture here for the U.S. for GyanSys. And with me, I have Ashish Baral and Praveen Kumar, who I've worked with for many, many years here, who are head of our technical team and S4 architecture from a global practice point of view. So just a little bit about us, but I won't spend too much time on that. So GyanSys, we have a global presence, even though we're a small to mid-sized company. I'm just spending just 2 slides about GyanSys, and that's it. We're going to get right into the meat. We've been around since 1995. We have 600 plus employees. The offices in Manila, India, Hyderabad, Bangalore is one of our large offices, and here headquartered in the U.S. globally in Indianapolis, Indiana, with several hundred consultants here in the U.S. as well. We're an SAP Gold Certified Partner, Microsoft, and also a Salesforce partner, mainly from where we help SAP clients integrate to Salesforce. One item I want to point out here on this next slide is the SAP HANA practice that we have, which is really our S4, Brownfield, Greenfield, and Bluefield, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes, a little bit more about what those options mean when you hear all those colors. So Gartner has recommended us, and I definitely want to point that out, that GyanSys is recommended from an S4 HANA partner for SAP, and we were recognized by Gartner with several of our successful projects that we have under our belt, and many that are ongoing now, over 25 right now being planned and assessed and or kicked off, which is a great place to be now that the scariness of S4 is really starting to go away. There's really, again, nothing to be scared of to go to S4 HANA and go ahead and start your migration upgrade. And we're going to give you some tips and tricks on that here in the next few slides. But we do have, I want to point out as well, we have 250 consultants. A lot of those consultants are certified as well in S4 HANA, different flavors of HANA, also cloud as well. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of the cloud options that have just came out in 1809 here in just a minute. So 1809, this is a little bit of an eye chart. This will be available for you to go and click that link. SAP, of course, just released 1809, September 2018, this month. It has gone general availability. Specifically on here, there's a new practice with 1809. You can do, of course, the normal SAP Cloud. You can do SAP Cloud from a private single tenant, or a private cloud is another way to look at that. So really that is where SAP would handle a lot of the back office infrastructure, fully managed from basis, security, a lot of the solution manager functions, anything that's non-business process value add, non-functional type adds, where SAP can help you handle that process from an infrastructure implementation point of view. Also, of course, there's still the far right column, which is SAP on-prem, which is still fully available with S4 1809. So this slide is definitely one of the key ones to our presentation today, although we got several good ones for you to review. But there are more than just these 4 options, but these are the ones we wanted to hit on today. When you go through an assessment, so what do you do? What are the options out there? Well, there's one option of doing Suite on HANA. Okay, several of our clients have done that over the past few years. It's not really something recommended. It is an option, but you can go to Suite on HANA. Really, it's just lifting and shifting ECC, converting it over to the HANA database with a few changes, allowing you to go ahead and in the future get you off that end of life in 2025 from the current ECC on a non-HANA database. So another option is S4 Finance. So maybe converting to S4 Finance, going ahead and doing the upgrade. So we would call that a Brownfield upgrade. Keeping most of the rest of the business and your functions, so different lines, or LOB as SAP would call them, the line of business, the same, except for finance. So giving them the business transformation. Usually they're ready to jump to Universal Journal. They're ready to make that leap to Fiori. Usually finance is one of those first departments in line. Okay, and you can still deploy SAP GUI 7.5 for the rest of your functionality, with the exception of some business partner master data changes there as well. That's another option that can be handled with this option 2 from a Brownfield type. And these are all things that we've experienced and implemented in the field. Another one is to do full enterprise management. Okay, to go ahead, do the whole process with converting over, whether it's SQL, Oracle, DB2, if you're running, AS400, whatever it might be out there, to go ahead and convert that over to the HANA database and do a full business transformation. Do that upgrade, do the remediation for any code, your C objects, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. There's a big change management impact. Option 3 is almost like re-implementation. Okay, so there's a big change management going from ECC to S4 HANA, going to all Fiori, MRP Live, all the new functionality, Universal Journal that is available to you, and of course, business partners, the big change in master data, and we're going to talk a little bit about that when we go to the migration section of our webinar today. Option 4 is a hybrid brownfield. Some would call this a bluefield or almost a greenfield implementation. So if you're on a really old version of ECC, you're not on, let's say, Enhancement Pack 7, maybe you're on Enhancement Pack 0, or even earlier. We've had some clients like that as well. This is where you could actually do a fresh install, so a new landscape, whether it's in the cloud or on-prem. Really the approach would be the same. So you do the new implementation, take any specific custom code that you want to keep. So not code that's old and obsolete, but maybe some custom leasing module, contract management, something like that that maybe you coded in your ECC system that you want to keep, and you move that good code, optimize it for S4HANA, and move that into the new landscape. So that is an option versus doing just a pure greenfield, which would be option 5, which isn't on here. A pure greenfield, treating your legacy SAP, treating SAP ECC as legacy system. Okay?
Okay.
And what drivers come into place to have you do this upgrade? Again, no reason to be scared of S4. Really, you can be successful and almost treat it as an upgrade plus, just a little bit more than you do for a normal upgrade or a normal enhancement pack, except of course you're changing a lot of the database layer. Upcoming hardware refresh cycles. So is it time to renew your maintenance with Oracle? Is it time to upgrade your servers? Are they getting a little long in the tooth? So those are different aspects. Do you want to move from a capital environment, so capital and depreciation for the accounting folks on the phone? Do you want to go to expensed, where you're more in that cloud environment, where it's a subscription model, and SAP handles a lot of that fully managed hosting, if you will, or the private cloud, the one single tenant cloud? That's another option. Merger and acquisition, you need to move a little faster. You want to have that global template and a clean environment in place. Also, you can actually experiment if you want. Take your new acquired business unit, put them on S4, then migrate everyone else in. Again, there's many options. When you do an assessment and a roadmap, which we highly recommend, then you can get a lot of that identified so you have a smoother project because you know a lot of the information up front from a mapping point of view. System license rationalization, optimizing your licenses. How many users do you have now? Do you really need a full professional license? How many connections do you have to outside systems and some of the new items that come into play? With the SAP licensing, which usually updates once a year on how that works. Leverage new capability. That may be another reason. You really want live cache. You're tired of the classic GL. You want to move to the universal journal. Okay, you want to make that jump, and it really is a really nice tool. The universal journal is, I've never heard anything negative about it so far. Performance issues. Do you have any performance issues? Well, you're going to in-memory database. You do have to have, or if it's in the cloud, you don't have to worry about it, but you do have higher memory. The database is actually running in memory, so your transactions are much, much faster. It also eliminates some of the need to have separate business intelligence or BW items, because really you don't have to do that churn offline to copy that data over, to do that batch, analyze it the next day. You can do some of that reporting live now, especially if it's SAP data coming from an SAPer and not a non-SAP system. Usability issues. So you have some team members that, SAP GUI or the current WebDem Pro, they really need to move to Fiori because Fiori is much easier to train on than SAP GUI. Okay. So that's another issue. You already hit on analytics. You want to reduce your custom code footprint. So a lot of clients have, I've even seen one less than 1,000 Z objects. I don't think I've seen an environment with less than 1,000 Z objects out of 30 plus customers I've had my hands on in the system. Ashish is laughing here, one of our technical directors, because I think he agrees with that statement. Usually it's tens of thousands, not just 1,000 of Z objects. So HANA helps you reduce a lot of that, and where you do need to keep good custom code, not core mods, good custom code, that you can make that efficient and run faster. Okay, there's really nothing to be scared of with jumping to S4, as you'll learn here in a minute. I'll go ahead and hand it over to Ashish, who will take us a little more detail in the Brownfield implementation.
Hi everyone, this is Ashish Baral, S4 architect for GyanSys. Thank you, John, for giving a good overview of our S4 journey, different options available. So again, whenever you are going for S4 Brownfield or any S4 journey, actually, there are different phases or different steps we recommend. For example, first step will be the assessment. Okay, depending upon what version, how many users, what is the custom code level you have. So you really need to assess your existing system and you find the readiness of it to migrate to S4. Okay, we assess the sizing part of it. We assess what new functionality you can bring into the system as part of the upgrade. Then comes the preparing for S4 HANA. So in this phase, you can literally, there are certain steps you can do before even procuring S4 license. Okay, you can keep it free space, for installation of certain applications. You can prepare your master data. For example, in the new S4 HANA data models, many things will be changing. You can keep certain things ready for that migration. We call it phase 0. Then you perform the actual conversion and upgrade, where you literally move to the S4 HANA DB and you bring new applications. Then the next step will be the simplification. All the simplified features that's available with S4 HANA, you start exploring the new your UI and all the tools that are available with S4. And the final phase we recommend, for example, from the day one, if you move to Brownfield, you don't need to use each and everything that's offered by SAP. You can plan in growth stage. Okay, maybe I don't need IBP right now. I use IBP later. For example, Ariba, maybe I can plan for my future stage. So these are the things you can really plan in terms of S4 journey. From the day one, you really don't need to go each and everything from the day one. So that's a typical S4 journey that we recommend for any brownfield or greenfield. Go ahead. Migration timeline. We have basically the idea of this slide is going to give a overall steps that are involved with any migration. Mainly categorized under two sections: preparation and realization. On preparation, you go for system sizing. Maintenance planner, that basically gives you that if you can upgrade to a certain version of S4 from your current, what it needs to do that. Then you perform pre-check. So when you upgrade to S4 HANA, again, pre-checks are performed while the upgrade is done, but I think SAP gives the provision. There are a couple of notes where you can really do the pre-check beforehand so that you can remediate or implement certain nodes before you actually do the conversion. It's not a good idea to run the migration and then get the error and then come back and fix. So you can fix all those, keep your systems ready. So that's the purpose of pre-check. Code readiness, again, SAP has given standard tools where you can really analyze your custom code, and again, which are getting impacted by SAP's simplified data model, or certain things getting obsolete because of the new S4 data model. You can extract those information. Again, you can prioritize that list. SAP has given tools for that as well, that certain C code, certain programs you may not be using. For example, on day-to-day basis, or even a 2 months period of time, you're not using it. So that means maybe that's not that much important to migrate, or if it's getting impacted. So you can prioritize your list. So objective is to give you a list disruptive and a minimal time frame in which you can really migrate to S4 with everything that's working today working tomorrow. That's the whole idea. Again, this timeline varies from customer to customer. Again, from our experience, it varies from 3 months to 12 months, depending on what kind of customer, what kind of implementations currently they have, how many custom code they have in place right now, and where they want to be from the day one. So that's, again, that's a very it's very subjective thing for every customer. So for that, we really need to do assessment. That's where then comes the realization part. You do the system conversion. That's a standard SAP process. Tools are available for that. And code remediation, custom code, we provide a tool where you can maybe 50 to 60% code you can remediate. As I said, it's not mandatory to remediate all the code from the day one. You can really prioritize, okay? Because the way SAP has provided, even if it's simplified data model, many things change. They have made sure that most of the code, for example, all read operations, they will not be impacted. But if certain tables are, moving to new HANA database table and you have written a write operations or update operations, those code will be impacted. So those needs to be analyzed, and we help in that process. So you can, again, as I said, no tool, if somebody is promising that they will remediate from entire code base 100% using that tool, that's absolutely not possible, I would say. So maybe certain things we can do 50 to 60%, rest of the things we have to manually remediate, again, based on the prioritization. Not everything has to be remediated. Functional validation, this is the phase where you invite your SMEs or functional consultants. They go through each and every application that's already in the system, they test the applications, do regression testing. If you're bringing in a new feature, they test that as well. Then UAT and final go live. So that's the typical migration activity that happens. Next slide. Okay, so coming to the phase one, as I said, like S4 journey, that's the first step is the assessment, right? So what kind of assessment we do? I mean, as I said, these are the 4 pillars of assessment we do. We evaluate custom code. That's the top one for any technical migration, how it's going to be impacted by the new S4 data model, simplification list, or anything getting obsolete, material length changing. So there are a lot of things that might impact your custom code. Functional assessment, so here we say, what are the things that you are currently leveraging, where you want to be, and then you can decide, from the day one, what feature you want to be in the system after migration. Infrastructure-wise, so for example, we help in sizing as well. Okay, so if you are doing a brownfield implementation, there are different scenarios, right? You want to add users to the into future, you want to add a new business unit to your system, or you want a new applications to be added as you upgrade. Or you just do as it is, and you just evaluate, okay, as a business, my business grows, this will be the increase in my data growth, that data volume, that's you calculate that. So you consider my current data volume, how much compression I will get if I migrate to S4, plus what is the future growth of my data, then you come to a sizing. So this is infrastructure. There also, SAP does this job from the day one. We can validate, also we can help you there as well. Interfaces, again, this is very critical. That's why I have scripted a separate category, because there are other systems involved here. So first thing, you need to find out, if first of all the system you're connecting to, is it compatible with S4 HANA? Okay, there are many things that might have changed in terms of, for example, simplified data models, RFCs getting obsolete. So that will impact. So we'll cover, again, as part of assessment, we cover all 4. So we'll go in detail right now. Custom code assessment, I think, as I said, so when you do custom code assessment, first thing is to get a work list out of this assessment. That's the full objective. And on the side note, you can remove wastage code, which is their dead code not getting used at all. Or you can improve certain performance. For example, certain custom code is taking time, maybe 10 minutes using the old database model. Maybe you are not leveraging HANA coding standards where you really can push the query and everything to the database level instead of writing an application layer. So you can do that and reduce from 10 minutes, maybe it will take 4 seconds. So those kind of optimization, that's not necessary for the brownfield implementation, but yes, people do that and they prioritize. Maybe this can come later after the first set of migration is done. We come up with, there are thousands of Fiori apps. Maybe you don't need to each and every Fiori app, because it's kind of lost in that library. So you really help there that what kind of Fiori app you really need for each of your processes. Tools used for any kind of custom code, again, these are standard things SAP provides, CCLM and UPL and ABAP Test Cockpit. That's the tools we use, in code assessment. Next. When I say code assessment, you really need 2 key things here. One is ATC, ABAP Test Cockpit, which can be, so for that I think ATC needs certain version of SAP Basis. That's basically, it has to be 7.51 or greater. So we can have a 7.52 as well, and that can be installed in any system. Not necessarily it has to be your SAP any dev, quality, or sandbox. It can be any system if you want. That can be that system can connect to the system which you really where you want to evaluate the code. It can be dev, sandbox, or quality again. So that basically gives you the the custom code that's getting impacted by the simplification and the label and of impact. Then again, I mean, you get maybe out of your 10,000 custom object, you will get 3,000 getting impacted, say, okay? Out of the 3,000, you can further fine tune from based on your UPL output. That's basically, the usage, what custom code or T code are getting used actually. Then you can prioritize that list. Maybe that 3,000 can be reduced to 300, as I said, for brownfield migration, you really don't need to remediate each and everything. You can prioritize, and which is a must-have. You can do it, and bare minimum, then you upgrade it, because everything we'll make sure when you're upgrading that nothing is broken. That part you can later on improve on that. Okay. When I say functional assessment, again, that involves both system rationalization, that involves new functionality. So I think this slide summarizes each and everything that's happening in terms of functionally or system wise. For example, I'd say SD. Foreign trade is not recommended solution. Right now SAP is saying, okay, you go for GTS. Okay, for basically maybe most of the part in foreign trade now has moved to GTS. Some part is still there, but I think the recommended part is the GTS. SAP CRM, right now it's maybe you have to go for hybrids. In terms of credit management on FI, with the credit management FI right now it's FSCM credit management. Things like that. So I think say SRM, that's the SRM will work, but the future is Ariba. Do you want to go for Ariba from day one, or you can as a growth opportunity you can do it later after the basic upgrade is done. So this kind of functional assessment we do. So both functionality that you can add, that you can have right now, that can have in future, and system rationalization. That's where we help with. Infrastructure assessment, again, when I say brownfield sizing, this is applicable for any actually brownfield or greenfield. Three things we look at: disk, memory, and the CPU. I think I've covered already this one. You are adding more user to the existing system, new functionality, or just migrate to the existing setup. So these are three combinations. We take all the number of users, so what is the current memory, what compression factor you're expecting, what's the throughput expected. So all those factors go into and give you a final figure for all these disk, memory, and CPU. That's the infrastructure assessment. Yeah, scroll down. Interface assessment. So as I said, interface will be, there is a high chance it might be impacted because there are certain, to make it HANA compatible, a lot of RFCs that has been signature has changed, okay, or certain things have been obsolete as well. So you really need to evaluate your SAP side of the code. If those obsolete RFCs, if it's gone, then either you'll have a new replacement or you write a new code to fix that. Say you went for, again, material length 18 to 40, say that's not mandatory to go for that, but if you went for that, say that will impact, if one of the interface uses that, that will be impacting the signature. You really need to say, for example, there is some middleware is getting used, okay, so you need to make sure the call from the middleware to the SAP system, that is refreshed and the new signature is reflected in your middleware and the correct mapping is done. So those kind of exercise has to be done. As part of our assessment, we tell you actually where the impact is the most. If it's a direct interface, yes, the impact will be more on both the sides. There's a possibility. Again, it's not 100% sure that will be impact. But if there's a middleware, you are kind of saved from the middleware side to the application. Only side you need to consider is middleware to SAP. so impact is less. So we always try to, our effort is try to minimize the impact on the S4 side. So we do assessment and provide the possible path for remediation in a way that you really do minimal change. That's our approach has been. Again, the last point is improve performance. You really, some interfaces, they're really bad in terms of performance. You're querying on tables which are high volume data. So maybe you really need to redefine that query in terms of HANA and improve that performance. So these are the things we do as part of interface assessment. Okay. So I'll hand over to Praveen now. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Thanks, Ashish. That was a great overview of our assessment scope. I will talk about the S/4HANA migration activities which we perform. So here is the pillars of S/4HANA migration which we focus on. So the first is the system setup. This is key because we are converting our ECC system from ECC system to S/4HANA, where the database is changing, OS is changing, and overall the architecture is changing. So we'll have to see that what kind of the sizing is required, what is disaster recovery strategy, what is the high availability strategy. That things need to be decided in a planning phase. As well as the system setup is required for the migration activity too, because we need to do a ATC on a remote system. So we'll need to see that do we have any system available in our environment which is greater than 7.51 where we can do the ATC check, or what should be our upgrade strategy. It should be N+1, then we will need an additional system in parallel of our current ECC system to do the dual maintenance. So those activities we generally assess in our assessment phase. So the other is code remediation, which I will discuss in the next slide. And then other two key pillars are interface remediation and data remediation. So Ashish will give a little bit overview on these pillars, like what we do generally there. Ashish?
Okay. So as I said, in interface remediation, we kind of talked through. So for example, interface might be impacted because of many things, right? Say material length changing from 18 to 40. Okay, you need to change the signature. Certain things getting obsolete. RFCs, you need to replace that with a custom code. You need to change middleware mapping because the signature has changed of the RFCs that are getting called from the middleware, that has changed. So you really need to remap or change the mapping in middleware. You can improve the performance. So these are the things you can basically change the query that you have written, select query in the SAP side of the coding, so that will improve the performance. So these are the interface remediations we do. In terms of data remediation, as I said, data will be handled in different sections. For example, there are things you can do before actually you really migrate, and there are things you will do during the migration, and you do certain after migration. So for example, I just give you an example, say business partner number range. Okay, so basically now the new data model, both customer and vendor will be now business partner. Okay, so business partner, so existing customer and vendor will have different number ranges for different account groups. So for example, there is a scenario where your customer and vendor number range has a kind of a common number. That doesn't happen, but some customers do actually, So you have a customer with number 20,000, you have a vendor with 20,000, okay? Now you are converting you are running the migration, so basically those are getting converted to BP. And BP, what it does when it converts is basically take up these numbers, and because you want to return your customer vendor number, right? So when BP is getting created, you will have the first BP created for customer, say let's customer goes first, you'll have 20,000 number, but when vendor comes, that 20,000 number is already taken, so there is a collision. So that kind of, so basically we have a tool, again we'll go to the tool section, that will tell you that okay, there is an overlapping number ranges. You really first to decide before you do the migration what will happen to those overlapping number ranges, if there is an existing customer and vendor who share the same number. So that's a kind of a strategy point of view. Again, during migration, say material master has certain field, SAP expects that has to be, certain value to be null. So if in your database certain things are X, so SAP provides standard programs to wipe those out. That okay, not wipe, no, reset it to null. So these are things you really need to do. For example, foreign trade. Say foreign trade data movement will be not part of standard S4. SAP will not move your data automatically from your foreign trade module to GTS. So you need to plan for that actually beforehand itself. Okay, there will be yeah. So I think so. These are the things you can do. Yeah. Over to Praveen. Go ahead.
Sure. So on security side, we know that the data model is changing. Lots of new features are coming. Old RFCs are getting obsoleted. So transactions are getting obsoleted. So several changes are happening that impact security. But on top of that, we know that Fury is a role-based application, right? It's a role-based solution. So in that case, that impact our security too, because we will have to plan with the security for Fury apps too now. So we will see that in a detail. Let's go to the next slide. And this is our code remediation approach. Ashish has already explained that why we use UPL and ATC. I will just quickly talk about that. So if we have, let's assume 5,000 custom code in our system, that can be enhancement, reports, function models, the different kind of custom code it could be. So the first thing is to check that, what we are really using, because we see that you may have a 5,000 custom code written, but we are using out of 5,000, we may be using just 3,500, and 1,500 is not used actually at all. So is it worth to put a remediation effort on that? Probably not. So in that case, we use this UPL tool in the system to analyze the overall users and procedures, which is running in the system. We can run it for ideally for 3 months or maybe 2 months to get all those information. And then we can use Solvent to generate a report out of that, which gives a very nice presentation of the data which you are seeing in the bottom here. And that helps us to determine the priority of the custom code, which one we need to take first. Now, the second thing is, this could be optional, because if you don't want to do, that is also fine. But the very important and mandatory part is the ATC, because we have several custom code and which is helping the business to run their process. Now we want to see that when we are moving those custom code from ECC to S4 HANA, are they going to work there, right? So to make sure they work, we need to check the S4 HANA readiness of the custom code, and ATC tool helps us with that. The key is that to do the S4 HANA readiness check of a custom code, we need a SAP basis system, which is ideally it should be 7.52 at least, but it works on 7.51 too. So we need a system, central ATC system, which we will use to connect with our ECC system and do the analysis of a custom code. We run this ATC, analyze all the custom code, and it will give you all the conflicts or issues which may come when we are moving to the S4 HANA system. And that's actually generate a work list for us. Now we can use the UPL to prioritize our work list, right? Because UPL tell us that which of the functionality, which of the custom code are heavily used in the system, and that will help us to prioritize our custom code work list. So that's how we use ATC. But now the important question is that how to fix that, right? We got a work list, now we need to fix that. We have a two approach, right? Either we do everything manual, or we need to accelerate the process. And that's where the GyanSys tool comes, where we can accelerate the custom code remediation process. I will talk about that in a detail in our accelerator section. The other important thing is a security remediation. We may have several SAP roles in our system, and that may change due to the new T code or obsoleted T code due to the new Fury apps. GyanSys has its own custom security accelerator, which does a quick analysis of our security roles in the system and tell us that which of the T codes need to be removed and what could be the replacement for that. So if one of the T code is getting removed, there could be a suggestion that we can use a Fury app for that. And as well as it can suggest all, depending on the business process, it can suggest the Fury business role, which we can map for a particular business users. For that, we'll do a manual remediation for that, and then we'll do a fix. We'll test that during our security testing phase. So now we are coming to a section where we will talk about the GyanSys accelerator. Definitely this is a really exciting thing which GyanSys team has built. So we are going to talk about 5 accelerators which are relevant for the Brownfield implementation. Although we have several other accelerators also built which are for Greenfield and all other scenarios. But in context of today's presentation, we will talk about these 5 accelerators. So let's start with the code remediator, right? What it will do for us, right? So let's assume I'm coming with a 5,000 custom code, and I got a list of the programs which need to be remediated for the S/4HANA system. This tool is going to help for most of those custom code. We are not saying that it will help for all of them, but for most of the standard fix, the small fixes we need to do in a system, this tool takes care of that. Here you will see a phased approach of code remediation. We give an option to select the boundary, so you can select your packages and you can do the execute, and you will see the list of the issues which can be remediated with this tool. We have given an option that you can select, like some of the things you are not confident, you can uncheck those things and the automatic remediation will not happen. You can do it manually. But all the selected item, once we execute this report, this will fix everything in the system, and on top of that it will generate a transport, and all the changes will be captured in a transport, and it will be ready to move to quality. Now here you are seeing the list where I am seeing all the green traffic signs on the left side, which says that the items which we have selected has been successfully completed. So this covers most of the remediation items which I have to fix. That will be fixed here, and then in the last it will show us the result that did we get any inconsistencies, right? So it's a tool. So if there is something which is an error or something, it will show me on the last slide where I can take a manual action. If everything is green, means all the issues has been fixed, and I'm not seeing any inconsistencies there. So this is the code remediator tool. Now what we are saying the approach that around 50 to 60% of the S/4HANA readiness issues will be fixed by this, and later we will fix by our best practice approach for any issues which are a little bit complex. Okay. So here are the couple of other tools which Ashish will talk about.
Yeah. So for example, again, as I said, we have tools for data validation. For example, you really things that you can do before you actually install S4 or so one of them example is a CBI data validator. So before CBI is basically a tool that synchronizes or creates from customer vendor to BP for the initial load, and then later on when PPs are created, it fills the customer and vendor table. That's a tool. So to run that, I think before as I said, number in check. So this tool is just a checks if a customer vendor has any overlapping of number range. If so, what are the actual data that exists in the system that's kind of overlapping in terms of number. So that gives you list. You can extract the list. This is a simple tool, but kind of important to do that exercise. So yeah, go ahead. Again, along with our role remediator, data validator, and code remediation, we provide other tools like, for example, quick fix EDIs, like something to add on. For example, if you are getting your EDI customer, you have 1,000-line PO coming, and you have some errors, 100 errors you want to fix, and it takes some 1 hour. So because of the navigation in standard W05 transaction, so we provide a better way to get all the errors one shot and fix it. So that's kind of utility tool. We just give it to customer for free. That's an add-on if you are going for any Brownfield implementation. Yeah. HANA interface what? So this is basically if you are again, one way to do, if you are using middleware, you can obviously have a monitoring capability. But what this tool does is it's a centralized monitoring tool in SAP itself. It can take care of any interface starting from your regular web service, EDI IDOC, or any other system-to-system RFC call. Anything that happens in terms of interface, we capture those errors in application log, and we have a centralized way to monitor it and send you report ad hoc basis on a daily basis in the morning that okay, these are the errors. So this is a kind of we have designed in such a way that okay, order to cash, these are the interfaces listed, who is the person responsible, what frequency will get the error log or that kind of. So you can configure all this as per your setting. So this is another tool we provide. Yes, scroll down. Key takeaway, I think, John, this is for you. Yep. So
the key takeaway for the S/4HANA readiness is this couple of things which we will talk about. The goal is to make the S/4HANA journey easier, okay? And we will have the items which we can do much before we start the project. So the first thing is that we need to check the readiness of the system, and which can be done much before than when we are planning to start the project. What we recommend that you start the assessment 6 months before, so that you know all the hurdles or all the issues which you may face in the future, and you have a plan for that. So there are different implementation scenarios are there, as John has explained earlier, and it is important to know the path. What we say that during the assessment, it is very important to know that what path we are taking for the assessment. Either it's a brownfield, or we are going for a hybrid brownfield. That need to be decided. There are several tools are given by SAP which can be leveraged before we even start the assessment, so that we know that what is the volume of code and what is the volume of work we are expecting during our S/4HANA upgrade, which help us to get ready with this. Okay, and the plan for phase 0. So phase 0 is the phase where we are actually doing all those activities in a system, and we are trying to see that what the S/4HANA will look into the enterprise system, because all the systems are different, all clients have a different custom code, different business processes in their system. And then phase 0 tells us that what will be the volume of work, what will be the effort required to do the system conversion. And the key is that in this phase 0, it's not mandatory that we do all the code remediation at the same time. As we have explained earlier, that we can prioritize the thing, and we can see that what minimum code remediation can make our system working as it was working on the ECC system. The other key thing is that SAP gives a tool where you can analyze the issues, but it doesn't fix those things. It doesn't remediate all the custom code. We had shown our custom code remediator, which help to expedite that process, custom code remediation process, where we can fix the 50 to 60% of the remediation issues just with a click. And the prioritization, the UPL output, which we get a report generated from CCLM, gives us the data which will help us to prioritize the custom code and to make the overall S/4HANA upgrade process faster.
Yeah, and there's a small timeline on this slide that doesn't look like it's showing up on the previous slide, which is okay, but you'll be able to download that as part of this webinar, as Maureen mentioned early in the beginning. And what I'd like to just wrap up with before we open it up to Q&A is just to spend a minute on the GyanSys assessment methodology at the high level. So we do our assessment preparation. And typically this can be anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks, depending upon the client. Clients have different needs. Each environment can be unique. We've gone over just a few examples and options in the Brownfield upgrade methodology. So we go through the assessment, review current business process applications, the mapping of your licensing. What do you need going forward? Is single tenant cloud right for you? Is public cloud, is on-prem still required, whether that's in your data center or fully managed at another partner from a data center perspective? And we defined those to-be mappings, not so much with your as-is, but where you're going in the S4 best practices. What do you have to have from an as-is mapping to your to-bes? Where's your desire to be at in the future to help grow with S4, to be able to do mergers and acquisitions quickly and expand and continue to grow your business? We review those process flows. We strategically build that roadmap with you. What's the best recommendations? What's the full project plan to deploy? A lot of this information, the more that's done up front, the more likely you are to succeed in the project. Prior planning prevents poor performance, okay? And we deliver that document and that full roadmap along with all the code categorization, all these tools as part of our assessment for you. A lot of this can be done quickly, as I mentioned. I spoke earlier, so it's 3 to 6 weeks, but sometimes it can be less or more. We've even done it as quick as 2 weeks, depending upon the size of the client. With that, I want to go ahead and open it up for Q&A. So I'll turn it back to Maureen. And any questions, if we don't have time to ask, I know we went a little longer. We only got about 7 minutes left. Any questions that we can't answer, please do ask, and we will get back to you and follow up with that. And our marketing team will get every single question will be answered and responded to. Maureen, back to you.
Thanks so much, John. As you mentioned, we are moving on to the Q&A, so you can enter your questions at any time. But we do have a few in there, so I'll get right into it. The first question, can ATC do the validation remotely, or does it have to be connected to the source system?
It can be remote, right?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be connected to the system where your code is, but it can be, it may not be on the same system, it can be a remote system. So the question is, I would say, I don't know, I mean, I don't get the context of the question because it can be remote, but it has to connect to the system in which the code is remediated. So it cannot be standalone and do it on its own, right?
Thank you. The next question, we are on ECC 6.0 EHP7 going through EHP8 upgrade and also looking into the HANA upgrade. The question is regarding the first Brownfield option. If we go with the first option, can we still leverage the new GL? Right now they're on an old one.
Yeah, for Suite on HANA, the answer is yes. You can do classic.
Thank you.
Yep.
The next question, how do you minimize downtime?
So there's a couple options. I'll take this and let Praveen and Ashish jump in. So one, you can set up, similar to an upgrade, you can actually copy production over to a dev and QA environment and work the upgrade separately. So you'd have to spin up 2 new servers or virtual instances depending upon how it's being managed or a cloud instance. And then you can continue to go ahead with your normal production activities and do that gap analysis, to make sure those stay in sync or in parallel with your current ECC system. So that's one way so you don't have to freeze it. You can still do business as normal. And then another area is to minimize that is to really help load that data early so you can minimize that cutover weekend. And that way you're only down for maybe 2 days, 3 days, again, depending upon your database. But there's many different options and tools there to help with that cutover.
Yep.
Add anything?
Yeah. So I think you need to make sure that, as John said, right, you have a parallel system set up which are you're upgrading, and make sure the transports are, flowing from your existing landscape. So that, you really, when the system switch happens, you already have a dev, queue, and production environment. You don't need to refer to the old ECC systems. That will make sure you have minimal downtime in terms of...
Keep them in sync. Yep, but there's different options. Okay, next.
Thank you. The next question, as a finance person, what resources are there to help me understand how the new HANA data structure will affect my general ledger, FI, and CO?
I think we can engage our finance expert for this one. I think he's not in the room here.
Raghu, yeah, so we have two directors in that area of S4 and also our finance consulting practice. So Nil Prabhala or Raghu Paldi. We can definitely go ahead and if we get your contact information, get you on a phone call with them at no charge just to go ahead and help you with some of that information. And we do have very, very good slide deck, very specific just for the finance portion.
Thank you. The next question, how do you minimize cutover window during S4HANA conversion? What approach do you follow?
I think we answered
that question. Hit on that one a little bit in that previous question. It was similar, so we'll go to the next one.
Next question, for ATC code SAP Basis S7.51 or 7.52, do we need HANA DB or can it be done by any DB?
It can be done on any DB.
Yep. Any database.
Wonderful. The next question, we have SAP IP integrated with Finance. How will the new S4 Finance integrate to existing SAP IP?
So if that means integrated planning, I believe that is, but again, we'll, from a finance point of view,
we have to defer to Ravi.
There's a few different acronyms for IP beyond integrated planning. So we'll hook you up with Raghu or Anil, who are two of our directors in that area, to be able to answer that question fully.
Thank you. The next question, SAP is advocating SCP for the future. What things should still be ensured even when I'm currently doing conversion to S4 on-premise?
So from a supply chain point of view, we would get...
No, this is the cloud platform.
All right.
What's the go-to question is advocating SC for the future. What things should we conversion to S4? I don't think SCP will have any. You don't need to prep work because that's a separate cloud platform. So providing you connector and other services, I don't think you really need to do any prep work for use SCP later. Okay, you can that can be it's a parallel activity. You can go ahead with your migration and you can bring on SCP later on if you really want to replace your existing middleware with SCP, which is a cloud version of your middleware, I would say. That would be the strategy. Praveen, if you want to add something.
No, I think you're right. So basically, the SAP Cloud Platform, some of the extension solution, if you want to build on S4HANA, you can run it on parallel, but I think there's no dependency, I believe.
Thank you. It looks like we have time for just a couple more. The next question, how does your tool help in minimizing the downtime phase during technical conversion, especially during import at target system?
So the downtime is a completely different thing because the R tool help in reducing the overall conversion timeline, because we expedite the conversion process, the code remediation process, which will make your S4HANA conversion timeline shorter. But for the minimum downtime, we will have to follow the strategy which John has explained earlier.
Yeah, and that's with
Thank you.
copying.
Go ahead.
Yep.
Looks like we have time for one more question. How do you deal with output management?
So for output management, SAP has an option. If you are coming on S4HANA, you have an option to off the new output management. If you don't want to use that, and if you are good with the old existing output management, you can still go ahead with that and don't leverage the new functionality unless you want to explore those BRF Plus based output management.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. I'll hand it back to you for any closing remarks. And please know that if we did not get to your question, they will follow up with you post-webcast.
Yes, I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining. Hopefully you learned something today, and we will follow up with all the questions that are left, which looks like there's at least 12. So we will follow up with those folks to get those answers. Thank you again for attending.
Thank you again, John, Ashish, and Praveen for a great webcast. On behalf of ASUG, I'd like to thank GyanSys as well as everyone who took the time to attend this webcast. If we didn't get a chance to answer your questions, they will be following up with you after the webcast. Before we go, I'd like to leave you with some quick information on ASUG with anyone unfamiliar with our user group. ASUG helps connect SAP customers to the people and information that they need to maximize their investment in SAP. If you'd like to speak to someone about becoming a member of ASUG, please message info@asug.com. As mentioned before, the recording and slides from today's program will be posted to the ASUG website, and all registrants will receive a follow-up email. Please take a moment to complete the survey by clicking on the green button at the bottom of your screen. With that, I'd like to close today's webcast. Have a great day.